Math, lesson 84. You will need textbook, workbook, lined paper, and a pencil. All right, so for today's lesson, we will be starting out with mixed number operations with addition and subtraction. By mixed number, I mean a whole number with a fraction. So these problems will be adding mixed numbers. If the answer has a fraction that is more than 1, you need to rewrite your answer. When it says a fraction that is more than 1, that means a top-heavy fraction. So let's start off with one problem. 10 and 6/9 plus 3 and 4/9. So when we work this problem, the first thing that we want to do is our fractions. And as we know, when we add fractions, the denominator has to stay the same or be the same. Here, they're both 9, so we're going to leave it at 9. But we can still add together the fractions. So 6 plus 4 is 10. Notice it's a top-heavy fraction, meaning it's more than 1. But let's continue. 10 plus 3 is 13. So right now my answer is 13 and 10/9. However, we know 10/9 is more than 1. So breaking this apart, we know that in here we're going to have two things. The number 1 and what's left over. 10 minus 9 is 1. So I know I'm going to have 1/9. Now I can add these two together. 13 plus 1 is 14. And what are my leftovers? 1/9. So, this is the first problem in your workbook on part 1. We will do the next two together. The next one is 8 and 4/5 plus 11 and 3/5. Let's work this one first. This is problem B in part 1 in your workbook. First, we have our fractions. What's our denominator for this? 5. Why? Because they both have 5 as the denominator. I don't need to change that. Now let's add the numerators. 4 plus 3, 7. So I have 7/5. Notice it's also a top-heavy fraction. And 11 plus 8 is 19. So right now I have 19 and 7/5. So I want to turn my top-heavy fraction into 1 with some leftovers. How do I do that again? I know that in here is 5/5, meaning 1. And what's left over? Well, let's do 7 minus 5, 2. So I know what's left over, 2/5. Now I can add this and my fraction together, meaning I now have 20 and 2/5. Now, next one. 7 and 8/10 plus 4 and 9/10. So, fraction first. I know my denominator is going to be 10 because it's the same here and here. You do not change that. Then I can add 8 and 9, which is 17. And what's 7 plus 4 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What I did there is I'm counting. I'm grabbing 7 and going 8, 9, 10, 11 on the dots. Next, I know that this, again, is a top-heavy fraction. Notice the theme here. In here, I have 1, and what's left over? 17 minus 10, 7. My denominator stays the same. Now I can add this and this together, giving me 12 and 7/10. All right, next one. I want you to try this one on your own. Here is 23, throwing a big number at you, and 4 7s, and 12, and 5 7s. And here you're going to add again. So, I want you to pause the video now and do this one on your own. Now I want you to check your work. Our fraction, we have 7ths as my denominator. My numerator, 5 plus 4 is 9. There's my top-heavy fraction. Now adding my whole numbers together, 3 and 2 makes 5, 2 plus 1 is 3, so now I have 35 and 9 7ths. Again, in here I have 1, also known as 9 over 9, because we know 9 over 9 equals 1 whole, and what's left over? 2 7ths. Now I can add this all together, giving me 36 and 2 7ths. All right, let's move into exponents with divisions by base 10. We've done this a couple lessons ago. So I'm going to write on the board a number. Read this number. 24 and 1900ths. Tens, hundredths. 24 and 1900ths. So if we divide, the number is going to get smaller. So if we're going to divide this number by anything, it's going to get smaller, meaning the decimal is going to move to the left. To the left when dividing. To the left. So, if we divide by 10, we move the decimal point one place. So, if I divide this by 10, my decimal is going to move here once. So I'm going to divide by 10. The way I remember this, and the way you can too, is there's 1 0 in 10, meaning I move this decimal one place, giving me the number 2 and 419 thousandths. I'm going to do another one. Read this number. 13 and 2/10. So I'm going to multiply this, or sorry, I'm going to divide this by 10 to the second power. 2 10s. 10 to the second power means 10 times 10. So 2 10s. If there's 1 0, I move it one place. Now I'm going to have 2 zeros because my exponent is 2. So I need to move this decimal 2 places. So my decimal will go here to the left 2 places. That looks a little confusing. So 1, 2. There's my new decimal. My answer? 132 thousandths. Now I want you to find part 2 in your workbook. We're going to do some of these together. In part 2 in your workbook, you have 5 problems. The first one is 11 and 8 hundredths divided by 10 to the second power. This should look familiar to you because we've done it before. So on this one, my decimal is right there. What am I gonna do? I need to move it 2 places. In which direction? To the left. Decimal to the left when dividing. There's my decimal, and I'm dividing. The exponent on the 10 tells me how many places to move it to the left. 1, 2. Giving me the number 1,108 10,000ths. All right, let's do a couple more together. I'm just gonna write up the next 3 on the board. Hopefully you're getting the hang of this. We'll just write the next 2 on the board. So now I'm going to solve these. Instead of writing it over here, I'm going to write it down below. I have 10 to the 1 power, meaning I'm moving it, the decimal, 1 place. In which direction? To the left, because we're dividing. So this goes over once, giving me 10 and 500ths. This one, I'm moving it 3 places. In which direction? To the left. Boom. So right there. So I'm going to have 0, 0. Need those there for my placeholders. Don't forget that. Otherwise, it's a completely different number. And the next 2, I want you to pause the video once it's up, because I want you to solve these on your own. So we have all right. Please pause the video, work on these problems, and resume it when you're done. All right, so let's solve them. First one, how many places do I need to move this decimal right here? To the left, 2 places. 1, 2, giving me decimal 0, 0, 2, 3. You should have remembered to put in your placeholder zeros here and here once you move the decimal. Now this one, look, notice there's no decimal here. However, it would be right here because it's a whole number. So now how many places do I need to move it to the left? 3. 1, 2, 3, giving me the number 9 and 652 thousandths. All right, now, I hope that was easy enough for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Up next, we're going to move on to fraction analysis using adding 1 more. Fraction analysis. So, here is a fraction. 5/6. I'm going to rewrite this fraction so it is 1 more than 5/6. The fraction is 6, so the fraction of 1 is 6/6. So I want to add this plus 1. How do I do that? I know that 1 whole, to make this work properly, because the denominator has to stay the same, denominator has to stay the same. I know the plus 1 that I want to add here is actually 6/6. So when I add this now, I'm going to get a new number. Like I said, I'm trying to get top-heavy fractions. What is 6 plus 5? 11. And my denominator stays the same. All right, so I'm going to do another one. More examples. Now I'm going to have 4 ninths. Again, I'm going to rewrite this fraction so it is 1 more than 5/6. Not adding 1/6 to it, but 1 whole. I'll say that again. I'm going to rewrite this fraction so it is 1 more than 4 ninths. The fraction is the fraction is ninths. So the fraction of 1 is 9 ninths. So I'm going to be adding plus 1. And what is my plus 1 in this situation? 9 ninths. Now I can add it together. 9 plus 4 is 9, 10, 11, 12. It is 13. And my denominator stays the same when you're adding fractions, so my answer would be 13 ninths. All right, I'm going to do one more with you before we do this together. My next one, 2/10. I'll repeat. I'm going to rewrite this fraction so it is 1 more than 2/10. The fraction is tenths, so the fraction of 1 is 10/10. So like I said, I want to add 1 more to this, meaning I'm going to add 10 over 10. And what does that give me? 12/10. Now, what do I want to do next? More of these. So find part 3 in your workbook. This is your time to do it on your own. We'll do the first couple together, and then I want you to do the rest on your own. So, in your workbook, you have 5 problems. Part 3 in your workbook. We have 5/7, 2 ninths, 1/4, 5/8, and 3/5. Now, I want to show you a shortcut way of doing this. So I know what I want to do here is I'm going to rewrite the fraction so it is 1 more than what's there. I want to add 1 to this, 1 whole, add 1 whole, add 1 whole, add 1 whole, add 1 whole. So what I'm going to add here is 7/7. So instead of what I did before, where I did the plus 1 and the 7/7, like this, my key right here is 5 and 7. That's all I'm adding together. Or I'm adding my denominator to my numerator. So I know 7, grab 7, add 5 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. My answer, 12/7. Same thing as what I did before. I'm just showing you a quicker way to solve this. The next one, 2 ninths. All I need to do is add 1 whole to this. So like I did before, this would have been adding 9 ninths to 2 ninths. 9 plus 2 is 11, so I know it would be 11 ninths. Now, look closer. This I know is 11 ninths. What else equals 11? This denominator plus this numerator, because all I'm doing right now is adding 1 whole fraction with the same denominator to it. So I know I'm adding 1 whole to it that equals 9 ninths. Making it simpler, I can add my denominator to my numerator, giving me 11 ninths. Here, I need to add 4/4 to this one. Well, my denominator is going to stay the same. So what's 4 plus 1? 5. Done. Now I would like you to pause the video to do the other 2 on your own. And here's how you check your answer. 5 plus 3 is 8. And 5 plus 8 is 14. Checking that work, grab 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. See, I made an error. Boom. Done. All right. So, up next, what we're going to do is expressions. Again, this is something that we've gone over before. We're going to take it a little bit farther today. So, I'm going to write an equation on the board. This is what we call an expression. So, this problem shows 10 times a quantity. What's my quantity that it's multiplying it together? 46 plus 4. So, read the problem. 10 times the quantity of 46 plus 4. I'll repeat. 10 times the quantity of 46 plus 4. What's the first thing we need to figure out? Inside the parentheses. So, 46 plus 4, 50. Now I can multiply that by 10. There's my new equation. And what is 10 times 50? 500. So, first we want to figure out the quantity inside the parentheses. That always goes first. Then we multiply by 10, the outside number. Whatever's out here is what you're going to multiply by after you do inside the parentheses. This comes first. First, then second. Notice it's backwards, which is totally fine. But that's how you need to do it. So, up next. Here's a tricky one. 1/3 times the quantity of 15 minus 5 plus 2. Remember our order of operations. First we need to do the parentheses, and inside the parentheses we do the addition first, then we subtract it by 15. So 5 plus 2 is 7. So I'm going to rewrite this to 15 minus 7. Still multiplying it by 1/3. And 15 minus 7 is 12. Now, all I have to do is 1/3 times 12. So first I worked this piece, then this. Now I have the parentheses solved. Now I can multiply it by 1/3. And 1/3 times 12 is 4. Because I know this is over 1, dividing these two together is 4. Cross that out, 4 is left over. Now, remember, first you work the problem inside the parentheses, then you multiply the value outside of the parentheses. This first, this second. All right, so open your textbook to lesson 84 and find part 1. Part 1 in your textbook, lesson 84. You have 4 problems. Problem 1, let's do this together. 8 times the quantity of 12 divided by 2. So, first, what I can do is 12 divided by 2, 6. So I know my new equation is 8 times 6. 8 times the quantity of 6, giving me 48. Answer solved. Boom. Up next, problem B. 10 times the quantity of 22 plus 3 minus 5. So, 10 times the quantity of 22 plus 3 minus 5. I do the addition part first. 22 plus 3 is 25, so 10 times 25 minus 5. Also, next step, 20, because 25 minus 5 is 20. So now I have 10 times 20, giving me the answer of 200. All right, I want you to do the next two problems on your own. So please pause the video, solve them, and I will show you how to solve it once you're done. All right. So, next problem. 10 times the, oh, wrong one. 3 times the quantity of 8/9 minus 7/9. This is tricky because it's a fraction, but guess what? Denominator's the same. It's gonna stay ninths. And what's 8 minus 7? 1. All right, so now I have 3 times 1/9. To solve this, I know 9 can be divided by 3. Because remember, this would be over 1. So, crossing it out, this and this, that would be 1 now. This is going to be 3. Giving me the answer, 1/3. Because 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 3 is 3. That is a tricky problem, so re-watch this part of the video if you don't understand that. Or ask me. Next one, last one. 12 times the quantity of 5 times 2. All right, so what is what is 5 times 2? 10. So 12 times 10. And what is 12 times 10? 120. And that is how you solve it. So this concludes part 1 of lesson 84. Please start the next video when you are ready to continue this lesson.